This last video is gonna be what I call like spicy techniques, and they're just little techniques that you kind of add into a riff to make them just a little bit more unique, a little bit more interesting. And the difference between just a hammer-on pull-off or what is called legato, just, the left hand fretting, left hand playing only, is the trills are basically just consistent between two different notes. So like this. So the way to, I think, most effectively play these is, what I do is I hammer on, and then when I pull off slightly down. So I hammer on and pull off slightly down. But I don't pull down enough to where it's going to change the pitch of the note or bend the note to where it's going to sound different. So that's like too much right there. That's just enough. And the main thing for these is just building up the strength. And how I did this personally was there's probably about 2 to 3 weeks of period of time to where anytime I found myself just doodling around on the guitar when I was practicing, and I didn't have anything specific that I was working on, and I was just kind of messing around, I would just start doing trills, all over the fretboard. Or I would just start playing riffs that I knew that incorporated trills, and within just a couple weeks, my trills increased probably about 200%. So this is kind of the situation to where it's okay to use different fingers, but you want to be intentional about what fingers you use. For example, this riff is a kill switch riff that I've been playing recently, and I noticed for me, this first slide, I use my first finger. And the reason why I use my first finger is because then I'm going to the 8th fret, which my second finger is right there, and then I slide over with that my middle finger. As far as practicing these slides, my best suggestion to be able to get them good is, it's pretty easy to slide. Just make sure that you're pushing down enough on the fret and not too hard on the fret again, to where you can hear the note. And then, whenever I'm playing a note, I'm always trying to play it closest to the fret as I possibly can. And that seems to give you the most vibrant sound for that note. So I'm really just right behind that 5th fret, and then I try to slide to that same position for the next note that I'm playing. But I would suggest just practicing sliding to different frets, because especially if you're going between like 1 or 2 frets, it's not as big of a deal. It's kind of it's easier to aim. But if you're going, say, from like the 5th fret to the 12th fret, it's easy to miss that and go to the 13th or the 11th. I don't use these very much when it comes to metal riffing. That's more for lead playing, but I wanted to bring these up too because you might see them, or you might want to use them in writing your own riffs. And the main idea here is that you're actually bending to a note. So I'm on the 7th fret here. I don't want to just bend randomly. I want to make sure that I'm bending to a note. So maybe it's that next fret. Maybe that next note is what I'm trying to bend to. So I practice it, I practice hitting that note and then trying to bend to that pitch. Or maybe I'm trying to bend a full step, like 2 frets. Or maybe even, 3 frets. I don't know if I could do that. Can't really do that with these heavy strings, but you get the idea. Make sure that you're actually bending to a specific note. It's not sharp or flat, and you're not just bending arbitrary notes. You're actually bending to a specific pitch. The thing about vibrato is, again, it's basically just consistent bends. So again, you want to bend to a certain note. So practice. I was a little sharp there, but practice bending to specific notes. It's one of those techniques that it's easy to be very unique with. So everybody's kind of has a different way that they do vibrato, whether it's slow, fast, a little bit in between. or kind of a combination between the two. What I suggest is that you guys, pay attention again to what your favorite guitarists are doing. If you have any of the guitarists that you like to watch more frequently, or your favorite guitarists do vibrato, pay attention to how they do it, and then maybe try to come up with ideas on how you want your vibrato to sound, whether it's slow or fast or somewhere in between, or a combination between the two. And then also, most people that are advanced with this technique generally will bend from the hand, and not from just like the knuckle. So kind of bending like this versus like just with the knuckles right here. They're bending kind of from the hand, so to speak. And again, having that open hand, is essential for all techniques, but really specifically for this one, I wanted to bring it up. Having that open hand is going to make that vibrato definitely more fluent and a little bit more consistent and not as choppy. I call these muted power chords. Actually, I used to call them muted power chords before I knew what they were called. And the reason why is because they're very close to playing a power chord. So if you guys remember, the power chord is just the two notes, like 2 frets away, one string up. And if you wanted to play the octave of this first note, that would be 2 strings up, 2 frets over. And that's the octave. And that's really what you're playing. When you're playing octaves, you're basically taking that middle note out, which would make it a power chord, and you're just muting it. So you want to make sure that this middle note is muted, like I said. So you can mute it with the ring finger. You can mute it with this first finger, just the bottom part of that first finger. You can mute it with your middle finger. However you want to mute that middle string there, that middle note, is completely fine. And what I also do is I try to mute as many strings as I can. So definitely I mute this low string with my first finger. And then I'll also kind of have my pinky across these bottom strings too. Or, ring finger, whatever, however you want to do it. It's not essential that you mute those, but the reason why that I try to mute as many strings as I can is so I can just play through these strings without them ringing out. So if I accidentally hit one of those strings while I'm playing these octaves, you can't really hear it ring out. You can still only hear those octaves. So that kind of gives me the leniency to strum as I want and not have to really pay attention to only hitting these, 3 strings here. I can hit that low string too, and it's not a big deal, but I try to aim for just the ones that I'm playing generally. You guys are interested in getting good at metal guitar, and you're like, I don't know what to practice. Check out Simplistic Riff Mastery, my 6-week course. I had almost 100 people graduate recently, and I'm telling you, the results are like so amazing that I'm very excited. So currently I have it half price. So if you guys are interested, check it out.